Hey everyone, my name is Blessing, and today we're gonna be chatting about how I got to be a Matric top achiever and get invited by the Minister of Basic Education to the Matric Awards ceremony, which usually happens around Jan. This video will not be like any other ordinary video you see on YouTube because it applies to every student from grade 1 to grade 12. So I'll be sharing the raw truth of what kind of work goes into being a top achiever. So tip number one, vision is everything. I always tell people that I strongly believe that I manifested this whole top achiever experience because it all started in grade 7. So I used to watch those Matric Awards in Jan, and I used to think that the only kids who get to go there are those kids from like Model C schools. As you can see that they're always wearing blazers with those different tags, right? Back then I was a kid and I didn't really understand how did it work. So I was like, man, I think it's only those Model C schools, but I'm gonna be the first person in the township that's gonna make it there, right? And I feel like that vision carried me through because I kept that vision all the way up to grade 12. So while I'm still discussing tip number one, I'm just gonna add tip number two as well, which is your circle really plays a crucial role in you making it, right? As I said that in grade 7 I used to watch those awards and I used to say, okay, cool, I want to be one of those people there, right? Your circle plays an important role because they have to believe in you as well. They have to remind you every time that you have to be there, right? So I'll give you an example. In grade 7, when I used to watch those Matric Awards ceremony, I remember one of my natural science teachers came to class and said, yo, yesterday I was watching this awards, some kids are smart and whatever. And then he said, I believe, Blessing, you can make it there, right? And from there I was like, okay, cool. There are some other people that believe in me as well, right? So I'm not delusional. I can make it, right? So I kept that thing that, okay, cool, I will make it one day. And going through like secondary school to high school, my teachers used to always say, you can make it. Just push, and we believe that you can make it to those awards ceremony. Even my friends, because my friends will always tell me, oh dog, you're super smart and you're going to make it in those awards ceremony. And I don't think I'm smart. I'm going to explain what tips I was applying back then in high school, which made it easier for me. But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to pass is vision is everything. You must have that vision and believe that you're going to make it, and at the same time your circle plays a very key role because they'll be the ones that motivate you, that make sure that that vision doesn't get bled in a way. So make sure that you have a good circle around you, people who won't spread negativity but people will motivate you and push you. Tip number 3 is linked to tip number 1 and 2, right? And it's you must believe that it's possible. So with me, when I was in grade 11, I remember there was a kid in my school who went to the provincial awards, right? So he was a provincial top achiever and he got to appear on TV, right? And that motivated me that, okay, cool, if she could make it to the provincial awards, I can make it to the national awards, whereby we get invited by the Minister of Basic Education. And I say use this video, use any other top achiever as a case study and say it is possible. Now let's talk about a common trait amongst top achievers, right? So I went to the awards, I got to interact with a couple of top achievers, and even before I went to the awards, I used to watch their interviews and they all said the same thing, that they started early, right? But I'm gonna divide this topic into two, right? Most people think starting early is starting festive season when you're going to grade 12 and put all the work, and then that's how you're going to be a top achiever. With me, it was a bit different. The reason why I said I don't think I was that smart, it's just that I applied certain techniques to make sure that school is easier for me, is because I always believed in the thing of being ahead than the teacher since like primary school. I remember in primary school we used to have those books, DPE books for maths, I think, and for English. And you know how in primary you're so relaxed that the teacher is moving at their own pace. So what I would do, and my mom would encourage me that, okay, cool, sit down, do this book, right? Do 25 pages a day, write those exercises, that even in class when you get to do that thing, you've already done it, right? Write it in pencil in class. When they say, okay, fill this page, you know that you've already done that thing. For you it's just revision, and then you're just filling it out with a pen. And I did that, right, going through to secondary school. I remember when I was in grade 8, I really struggled with maths for a bit, And I remember during school holidays, most people obviously were relaxing and having fun. And I was like, nah, man, I don't understand maths, and I feel like I need to understand it, right? So it was the first time being introduced to algebra and factorizing and all those kind of things, right? So I spent my entire holiday, I think it was those August, the fourth term holiday. I spent the entire holiday working through example, trying to teach myself algebra. That by the end of that holiday, I had mastered it, right? So going into the exam, I nailed it, and I found that to be so helpful because when I got to grade 10, it was mostly algebra, and for me it was easy. I was sailing through because I've already grasped all the concepts in terms of like factorizing, solving for x, and all those kind of things. So it really didn't take me off. So in grade 10, I was focusing on other topics now, like trigonometry and all those other, including geometry, right? Because I've already mastered your algebra. So I always believed in being ahead, because even in high school, what I would do is my maths teacher used to be so dependent on us as students that, okay, cool, when you're solving a problem, we must solve it as a class. And I remember I used to say, oh, blessing dog, can you please help us on the board, right? If there's like more of a challenging question. And that used to happen because what I would do is I'd study ahead, rather than make sure that I do each and every question in the homework before class, right? And I'll make sure that I study ahead so that when we get to that topic, I already have an understanding of it. And even if we get a challenging question as a class, I can be able to jump in and help, right? It was more of like an ego booster, but at the end of the day, it helped because I was able to exercise my muscle to try and understand something like the hard way than someone teaching me. That when someone came and stood in front of me to teach me something, it was easier for me to grasp it. Now let's talk about starting early in Matric, right? Most top achievers will tell you that they started studying in festive season, right, when they were going to Matric, and they were able to cover a lot of topics there, right? That's a really good strategy because for me it was also the same thing. But for me, remember, my year it was COVID-19, so we got a break from school, right? And during that break, I felt like I was able to push the most because for some subjects, I was able to finish the entire curriculum before we even opened. So when we opened and then we were going through the curriculum, it was more of like revision for me. So I'd encourage you starting early, but I always say, how do you start early, right? You can't just be ahead in each and every subject. Strategy I've applied is you must choose 3 or 4 subjects that you find easy, that come natural to you, right? Let's say, for example, for me, it was English, paper 2, Zulu, paper 2, economics and accounting, and also maths, right? So what I would do is I'd stay ahead in those subjects. I was able to study them alone, right? Because it's pointless to try and stay ahead in a subject that you struggle understanding alone, and you waste all your time trying to understand it if you just have someone explain it to you, right? So for me, it was like, okay, cool, for their subjects I can study them by myself, so I'm gonna push them and be ahead in these 4 subjects, and then the rest I'm just gonna follow through in class, do whatever's required of me, try to understand, ask questions. So that's the best strategy you can apply to stay ahead of the teacher, because you can't stay ahead of the teacher with each and every subject. So tip number 5 is you must set a goal for yourself. So I remember when I was going into grade 12, I did a lot of research on the top achievers, on the previous top achievers, and I tried to understand the entire system and how it works so that I can be able to set a goal for myself and be able to achieve it and stand a good chance of being a Matric top achiever invited to the awards, right? So when I was doing research, I was like, okay, cool, I can either invite you in terms of your quartile, or they can invite you for a specific subject, meaning that you're a top achiever in that specific subject, or you can be a top achiever overall, right, for the entire country. So I did research, and I remember for the student who became top achiever on the previous year on quartile 1, he got an average of 92%. So I was like, okay, cool, if he got an average of 92%, that means if I can get 92 and above, I stand a better chance of being a top achiever. And I was like, okay, cool, my goal is to get 92 and above. And I remember I had like a vision board or the academic targets on my wall. So I had subject by subject, and then I put a target there. For some of them it was like 100%, 98%. I remember for accounting it was 100%, and average it was like 95%. So I was like, okay, cool, this is what I'm working on, and if I'm able to achieve this, I stand a better chance of being a top achiever. So most people try to go into it blind. They'll be like, I want to be a top achiever, but you didn't do your research. So do your research and know what you need to achieve, and throughout grade 12 make sure that you're working towards that, right? So each time you must make sure that your average is near that target. If not, you must push harder, so that when that exam comes, you're able to give it your all and stand a better chance. So if you guys want to understand how the whole Matric Awards ceremony works and how you get invited and what was my whole experience with it, you can just drop a comment below, and then I'll do a separate video explaining the whole experience of being a Matric top achiever and how you get invited. Tip number 6, when you're in grade 12, try to start doing past question papers as early as possible, right? So in grade 12, I remember my high school accounting teacher used to employ this strategy so much. So during the year, we do theory and whatever, but most of the times, 80% of the time, we spend doing past question paper. And I feel like that helps because it kind of prepares you on what to expect, right? You get comfortable answering exam standard question, that when you get to that exam or during exam season, you don't panic because you're already used to doing exam standard question. And one thing that most students usually struggle with is leading up to exam season, they'll feel like we haven't covered all the work, right? So I haven't covered all the theory, so they'll try to push to cover all the theory before they start doing past question paper. And I always advise the opposite, that when it's leading to exam season, let's say 2 weeks towards examination or even 3, right, you should say, okay, cool, as long as I did maybe like more than 50%, 60% of the work, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start doing past question papers. So you start doing past question papers, and the strategy I used to employ is I do a past paper under time pressure, under exam conditions, and then after I mark for myself, right, question by question, and then you reflect that, okay, cool, in this question I performed poorly, and that's because I haven't covered the content. And then you go and try to read that section and understand it. And how that helps is now you know how the examiner is going to ask the questions. So even when you're studying, you're only picking up the key things that are important in that topic. So don't try to go through everything in the curriculum. If it's leading towards exam season, what you need to do is you need to start doing past question papers, reflect on them. If there's a topic you don't understand, then you go to the textbook, you go to your notes and try to study it, and then do another past question paper, and then you repeat the cycle. I'm telling you, you'll be more comfortable getting to that exam. I feel like I still have a lot of tips that I want to share, so make sure that you subscribe if you're finding value in this video, and drop a comment and say part 2 if you're willing to hear more tips on this Matric top achiever topic. But the last tip I'd give is during exam season, make sure that you get enough rest, right? So I'll tell you a story. During our prep exams, I remember I was writing maths and I wasn't fully prepared, and I was going through certain topics the previous day, trying to understand them. I remember including geometry, I was trying to understand it. I didn't even do that much question papers, so I slept around 5 a.m. I was writing at 9 a.m. in the morning. Got to that exam, I was slow. So when you're tired, even if you know some stuff, but your brain will function so slowly that you won't be able to finish that paper even though you know some of the stuff. So obviously I didn't pass that paper so well. But what happened is exam season, I told myself I'm going to rest, right? If it says 10 p.m. and I'm writing tomorrow morning, even if I'm not done, whatever I've done is enough to carry me through that exam. So at 10 p.m. I'd sleep, and then the next day I'll go write and ace the exam basically. Another thing I want to mention is most of the times it's crazy how during the year you don't perform as well. Most people usually say, Blessing, did you get 100% the entire year on accounting? No, I didn't. I used to get your 80 sometimes, your 90 sometimes, but my final mark was 100%. If you're interested in knowing how that works and how the final mark is calculated, drop a comment as well, and I'll be happy to do a part 2 explaining that process. Like I said, man, my name is Blessing, and what I do is I try to help students achieve academic excellence. So make sure that you follow my TikTok account. I share a lot of tips over there, and also make sure that you subscribe in this channel, like this video so that you can be able to do more, and also drop a comment and let me know what you'd want to know next, right? And see you on the next video.